Frank Beard, the man with no beard. I think that it probably rivals some merit.
Billy Gibbons has spoken plainly about losing his last surviving original bandmate, but the most quietly devastating tribute to Frank Beard this week didn't come from a new statement at all. It came from words Dusty Hill spoke years before he died, resurfacing now with an entirely different weight. Beard died Monday, August 17th at the age of 77, in hospice care at his ranch in Richmond, Texas, with family by his side. Gibbons, ZZ Top's guitarist and now the band's sole surviving original member, confirmed the news through a statement, saying that he and touring bassist Elwood Francis had lost a great friend and collaborator, and that the world had lost one of the most naturally innovative drummers and a great, true son of Texas. He credited Beard's signature backbeat with keeping the band on top for as long as it stayed there. No official cause of death has been publicly disclosed, and the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's Office has confirmed only the date and location of his death. It's worth being precise here. There's no separate public statement from a Dusty Hill estate, and it would be inaccurate to frame this week's tributes that way. Hill died in July 2021 in his sleep at his home in Houston at age 72, and there's been no reported comment from his family or estate specifically addressing Beard's death this week. What has resurfaced instead, and what's doing the real emotional work in this story, is something Hill said himself years before his own death in ZZ Top's 2019 documentary, That Little All Band from Texas. In that film, both Beard and Hill spoke openly about a dark period Beard went through in the 1970s, a severe substance addiction that, by Beard's own account, once consumed an entire major paycheck on drugs. He later expressed real regret over that period and entered a rehabilitation program, a decision he made, in his own words, after realizing he'd done it all and couldn't go any further. His recovery lined up with the band's 3-year hiatus in the late 1970s, and ZZ Top returned in 1979 as the trio the world would come to know through the beard and sunglasses image that defined their most commercially successful era. It's Hill's reflection on that period, though, that's taken on new meaning since Beard's death. In the documentary, Hill said plainly that Frank goes all out on what he does, and that includes the bad things, adding that he was sick, and that when you're a very good friend, when you love a guy, you don't want to see him die, you just want to see your brother get well. That line, spoken by a bandmate who's now been gone for 5 years himself, functions as its own kind of tribute this week. A bassist who loved his drummer enough to say so publicly while he was still struggling, watching that same struggle now fully behind them both. Beard's path into ZZ Top ran directly through his relationship with Hill, and understanding that friendship helps explain why Gibbons' current tribute carries so much weight. The two met as teenagers after their respective bands played together at a club in Fort Worth, and went on to play in a string of Dallas area groups together, including outfits called the Warlocks, the Cellar Dwellers, the Hustlers, and American Blues, before, in one of the stranger footnotes in either of their careers, spending part of 1969 touring North America as part of an unauthorized touring act posing as the British band The Zombies. A scheme run by a Michigan promotion company that booked the fake group after the real Zombies had quietly disbanded following the success of Time of the Season. Later that same year, Beard joined guitarist Billy Gibbons in a band called The Moving Sidewalks, which would be renamed ZZ Top within months, after Gibbons' earlier psychedelic outfit had dissolved. It was Beard who then introduced Gibbons to Hill, effectively assembling the classic lineup that would stay together, unchanged, for the next 50-plus years, one of the longest-running consistent lineups in rock history. That lineup produced some of American rock's most recognizable songs. Beard joined at just 20 years old, replacing original drummer Dan Mitchell only months into the band's existence, and the trio found its first real commercial breakthrough with 1973's Tres Hombres, which climbed into the top 10. That success was followed over a decade later by the massive MTV-fueled breakthrough of 1984's Eliminator, an album that sold more than 10 million copies and was certified diamond by the RIAA, powered by hits including Gimme All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man, and Legs. Beard, notably, was the only member of the trio who never grew the long beard the band became visually famous for, a detail fans and interviewers brought up with him regularly across the decades, and one that added its own quiet irony to a band whose very name referenced facial hair Beard himself never wore. Health issues had shadowed Beard's final stretch with the band well before his death. Throughout 2025, he stepped away from multiple portions of ZZ Top's touring schedule to deal with medical problems, with drummer Michael Monaghan eventually filling in behind the kit. That pattern continued into this year, and just weeks before his death, the band was forced to cancel its highly anticipated Hollywood Bowl performance at the last minute, a decision later confirmed to be directly tied to Beard's declining health. Following his death, Gibbons confirmed the band intends to keep touring, with Monaghan expected to remain on drums going forward, a choice Gibbons has said is in keeping with what Beard himself would have wanted. That decision mirrors almost exactly what Gibbons chose to do after losing Hill in 2021. Rather than let the band's story end with the loss of an original member, Gibbons brought in longtime guitar tech Elwood Francis to take over on bass, carrying ZZ Top forward in a way that honored Hill's own wishes for the group to continue. That choice meant Beard remained the band's last direct link to its original rhythm section for several more years, right up until his own death made Gibbons the sole surviving original member of a trio that first came together in 1969. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together in 2004, Beard, Gibbons, and Hill built a legacy few bands in any genre have matched for consistency and longevity, staying together as an unchanged lineup for more than 5 decades before Hill's death in 2021 finally broke that streak. What Beard's death this week has made clear, through Gibbons' own fresh statement and through Hill's resurfaced words from years earlier, is that the bond behind that music was never just professional. It was, as Hill himself put it, something closer to brotherhood, the kind where watching a friend struggle wasn't something you distanced yourself from, but something you stayed close enough to and loved through, hoping simply that he'd get well. Now, with both of his original bandmates gone, Gibbons carries that legacy forward largely alone, backed by Francis on bass and Monaghan on drums, continuing to tour under the ZZ Top name in a way both departed members, by every account of how the band chose to honor them, would likely have wanted. But the truest tribute to Beard this week may not be a new statement at all. It's a 5-year-old clip of his closest friend and bandmate, speaking with real tenderness about wanting to see his brother get well. Words that now stand as one of the more honest, human portraits of who Frank Beard actually was, not just to millions of fans around the world, but to the two men who spent more than half a century standing beside him on stage.